History often remembers its conquerors, its emperors, and its revolutionaries. But every so often, it quietly preserves the legacy of a soul who, through the sheer force of will, carve a place in time far greater than armies or empires ever could. One such soul was Baldwin IV of Jerusalem, the Leper King. Born in 1161 into the heart of the Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem, Baldwin was a child of privilege, but not of comfort. From an early age, he exhibited intelligence and curiosity beyond his years. Under the guidance of his tutor, William of Tyre, Baldwin was groomed not just as a royal, but as a potential leader. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. William noticed something odd. Baldwin couldn't feel pain in his arm, even when pinched hard. The diagnosis was swift and brutal: leprosy. In the 12th century, leprosy was not just a disease, it was a curse. The afflicted were feared, shunned, and often exiled from society. To have a prince, a future king, touched by such an affliction was unthinkable. Yet, instead of withering under the weight of stigma and disease, Baldwin made an extraordinary choice. He would not be defined by his illness. He would fight, rule, and protect, even as his body slowly betrayed him. At the age of 13, Baldwin ascended the throne. His youth, combined with his illness, made him a target for internal scheming and external threats. Many doubted he would last a year, but Baldwin quickly shattered expectations. He surrounded himself with skilled advisors, navigated palace intrigues, and most importantly, commanded with clarity and resolve. His reign was not one of passive suffering. It was marked by action. Saladin, the legendary Muslim general and sultan of Egypt and Syria, loomed as the greatest threat to the Crusader states. A brilliant tactician and charismatic leader, Saladin had a singular goal: to reclaim Jerusalem. Baldwin, despite his declining health, led his armies into battle against this formidable foe. One of his greatest military triumphs came in 1177 at the Battle of Montgessard. Baldwin, only 16 years old and already visibly affected by leprosy, led a vastly outnumbered Christian force to a shocking and decisive victory against Saladin's superior army. The image of the young, diseased king riding into battle became the stuff of legend, a living testament to courage, faith, and defiance. But war wasn't Baldwin's only battleground. Inside his court, power struggles and political rivalries threatened to destabilize the kingdom. Baldwin understood that internal division was a greater threat than even Saladin's armies. Knowing he could not rule indefinitely, he made the bold decision to disinherit his sister Sibylla's husband, Guida Lusignan, from the line of succession, believing him to be weak and unfit to lead. Instead, Baldwin named his young nephew as heir and appointed a regency council to guide the future. It was a desperate gamble, one that revealed Baldwin's deep understanding of realpolitik and his willingness to set aside personal ties for the greater good of the kingdom. By 1183, Baldwin's body was nearly consumed by leprosy. Blind, crippled, and in constant pain, he could barely ride, let alone fight. But still, he appeared at the head of his army when needed. Face wrapped in cloth, body supported by attendants, but spirit unshaken. To his men, he was more than a king. He was hope, a ghostly figure who seemed to walk between life and death, holding their fragile world together with sheer will. He ruled until 1185, finally succumbing to the disease at the age of just 24. Yet in his short life, he achieved more than many rulers who lived twice as long. His death left a vacuum of strength and leadership, and just 2 years later, the Kingdom of Jerusalem would fall at the Battle of Hattin, a disaster Baldwin had long foreseen and fought so hard to prevent. Baldwin IV's legacy is not one of conquest or expansion, but of resistance. Resistance against disease, against doubt, and against despair. He was a king whose power came not from the sword, but from the strength of his spirit. A man who ruled not with fear, but with fierce love for his people and his city. He was a leper, yes, but he was also a warrior, a statesman, and above all, a symbol of undying resilience. His story reminds us that true greatness does not always come from physical strength or overwhelming armies. Sometimes it comes from the quiet, relentless refusal to surrender to fate.